Off top, in 1993, U.S. Congress voted to apologize to Hawaii. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
What's up, Charlie? Yeah, they did an apology resolution. I just got back from Hawaii. Well, I was in D.C. for 4 hours, and now I'm in Miami. But yeah, the Hawaiian government was overthrown by 12 Caucasian businessmen, some of them from the United States, some are from Europe. And in 93, the United States admitted that they were behind it and apologized, but they needed that land for strategic purposes. And then Hawaii voted to become a state. Well, not then. Yeah, then Hawaii voted to become a state. They voted for statehood. They had a referendum and allowed them to vote. 90% of the citizens voted for statehood. Wish we could do that.
Same. Also, a written apology fixes everything, right?
Yes. I mean, as a black man, I can say that at least acknowledging it would be kind of dope. But anyway, we have taxation without representation because we live in D.C. I'm not there right now. I got representation down here in Miami. Not sure it's the representation that I want, but I'm here. But anyway,
no taxation and lots of representation in Florida.
That is fair. They do have lots of representation and no taxation on the, what is it, income tax? They don't tax or something?
Yeah, no state income.
All right, so I did not expect to be here, but I'm here because my man needed some help, so I'm here for that. But I'm sad to not be in studio with you, but we have lots of fun stuff to talk about nonetheless. You got a fresh haircut. Your curls look great. You leaned it in today. Yeah,
I wore shorts today. I wore basketball shorts today, and knowing that you would not be able to make fun of my creamy thighs in person, it seemed like the perfect shield of about a few thousand miles of distance.
I feel like after you saw Barbie, you leaned. You are a part of the kingdom. It's a new you now.
I am Knuff.
Ridiculous. All right, so sports. It happened. We had a little bit of I guess we don't have to call it sports. You said you didn't watch the World Cup.
No, I watched the World Cup.
Oh,
I didn't watch any of I didn't watch any of Jake Paul fighting. So I think our text might have been crossed. I think you said you watched the fight. Yeah.
Yeah. I meant the fight. I meant the World Cup. Sorry, but the fight. You didn't watch the fight? Did you watch? It's like Jake Paul is a good boxer, I guess. Which even though he's not boxing against boxers, he's a good boxer. I don't really care to talk about it, but
yeah,
it's whatever. Let's talk about the World Cup. Can we just hand it over to the young people? Like I feel like that's my critique, and that was, to be fair. Of course, we all kind of parachute in on this every 4 years. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm some super soccer expert or women's national team super fan. But they fell short in the Olympics. They fell short here. And part of what I saw, my amateur analysis, is it seems like there are really talented, athletic, explosive offensive players. They are not Alex Morgan.
Yep.
And it appeared to me that Trinity Rodman was putting pressure on the defense. Sophia Smith, although she missed the penalty kick, was also a player that it seemed like with the ball on her foot, the opponents were, intimidate's the wrong word, but were aware of her and wanted to react to her in a way. And it just didn't get that same thing from Alex Morgan. I understand there's issues in the midfield, and Rose Lavelle was out because of her 2 yellow cards, and that's a problem. The one thing that I think we can be proud of, I feel like the defense is strong. It's embarrassing. The defense is strong, right? Like that was
this is your lane. Okay. So look, I largely agree with you. It was brought up that other than the 5-goal performance against Thailand, Alex Morgan has scored 2 goals in the last 17 World Cup games.
She's no on back.
Yeah, it's certainly not. And we didn't really. I think what's disappointing to me is I don't feel like we know what we've got with the trio of Trinity Rodman, Sophia Smith, and Alyssa Thompson. All 3 are super hyped up players. Before the World Cup, I think ESPN rated Sophia Smith as the 3rd best female player in the world. And other than the 2-goal performance in the opener against Vietnam, which is still uneven, she largely wasn't a dominant impact player the way that we're used to. Like we think of the dominant impact players on the U.S. Women's National Team, like a prime Rapinoe, a prime Abby Wambach, someone, even Rose Lavelle at points last tournament, obviously was banged up this time, just looked like she was superior to everyone on the opposition. And I think we're going to largely have to wait till the next Olympics next summer to see if that's the case with these younger players.
Yeah, and maybe I'm a little bit more lenient than you. I think that the team,
for sure.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I kind of disagree with you. Like they looked, well, I guess Alyssa Thompson didn't play, so we can't include her, but they looked impactful, although they weren't scoring. They looked better than the opponents, but it's a team game. Did
they look better than the opponents?
Me,
like a 20-minute stretch against the Netherlands to end that game when they were putting a ton of pressure on?
Yeah.
That's about it.
They did to me. And I mean, maybe this is just my American bias, but yeah, when I saw Trinity Rodman even though like she was playing on the edge, which I know is not her like normal position, but like I saw her running past people and taking ambitious shots. I don't know. It's probably, it's not fair to write them off. I think your assessment is probably right. We don't know, and I guess I take we don't know what we have as a write-off, and it's not a write-off. It's like, yeah, we don't know what we have, but I saw enough explosiveness out of them to be comfortable blaming everybody else.
I definitely would blame the coach. Yeah, and I thought there were some weird pairings, and we wanted to see more of the young people paired together and how that was going to work, and we didn't totally get to see that. And I think it's a little bit concerning though that the U20 team hasn't won the U20 World Cup since 2012, and it's been even rougher for the U17 team. And so I don't know. For me, it's just we're used to golden generation after golden generation, constantly having the alpha player in the world, constantly having the alpha player in the World Cup. And I think I'm going to be more interested in the women's performance in the next Olympics than I have been in any prior tournament, because I think the gap is the smallest, and I think the young players are going to have the most to prove. And then look, this could be a 2004 men's Olympic basketball situation when it was just that you had LeBron and Carmelo and Wade on the bench. That is distinctly possible. But there was a lot of palace intrigue around the 2008 team, the Kobe LeBron team, just to see like, are they going to fuck it up again, or are they going to restore glory to this program that has become like a point of pride?
Yeah, as much as losing stinks, this is a good one to lose because it was at stupid times of day and night. So, and it does make the next World Cup a lot more interesting and more fun, more exciting, more intense. But yeah, I don't know. Do you think, and this might not be a fair question to ask you, but a lot's been made of how the rest of the world has caught up. So I guess, if you are to distribute blame, do you think it's mostly about the rest of the world catching up, how poorly they played? I mean, honestly, their best game was against Sweden, the game they lost, but
yeah,
how poorly they played in this World Cup, how much of it is them, which includes the players, the coaches, everything on our side, and how much of it is the rest of the world catching up? Because I will say that when we talk about the rest of the world catching up in other sports, whether it's American sports or sports that we're good at or sports that other people are good at, there are barriers, I think, that stop other people from catching up to us in basketball. One, because basketball is not the number one sport everywhere else, but the only barrier that's stopping the rest of the world from catching up to us in soccer is more aggressive misogyny. Which is a barrier that could be easily removed, at least around that sport. So, like, soccer is a great sport that they love. So, like, there is no chance that any single country will pass us in basketball, even if all the rest of the world will pass us together, because nobody cares about basketball as much as we do. But there's a real chance that we could just, like, go into the pack for soccer.
Definitely. I think, the margins in soccer obviously are smaller. The best team doesn't always win the men's World Cup. It's just not how it works with the single elimination knockout stage. Like in basketball, the gap is immense. There's so much more scoring. But the second thing is I just keep going back to the fact that I really think that we took it for granted that how far ahead people like Julie Foudy and Mia Hamm and Abby Wambach and Megan Rapinoe were compared to the rest of the world, and just continually expecting to have that level of player might be a fool's errand. I think there are certain parts of that with Brazilian football on the men's side that we see when it's like you have a streak of, I mean, even past the Pele stuff, the early 90s stuff, when you have Romario, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, and it's basically like, oh, pick your Ballon d'Or winner. And then you have a gap after that that's come to now. And it's like, I don't think necessarily that the world caught up to Brazil. Well, that can be a different conversation about if French football has sort of developed on-ball stuff and a way of training players that's closer to that. But more, it's just that I don't think you can always count on finding a generational player every 2 or 3 years and then having those players all come up and play together.
Yeah.
I mean, don't.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We have a lot of money in this country and are more advanced when it comes to women's athletics. So I actually don't think the hard part is having outstanding players. Like, I don't think we're going to have a shortage of outstanding players. How much better they are than everyone else is another question, but it's the complexity of the game. And that's the thing where it probably gets a little bit more difficult because the amount of effort and time and intelligence that goes into soccer everywhere else is a lot more than here, like on the men's side and the women's side. And I think just all of that put together, I think there are places that will catch up or that have already caught up, but I think we're still going to have like,
oh yeah,
great. So I guess from an athleticism standpoint and like working as a team and style of play, those are things that we can't necessarily have a monopoly on or be the best at because we just don't care nearly enough about it here. But from a best player standpoint, like I kind of think we're always going to have, and maybe this is just my bias, we're always going to have the best player or players.
See, I'm not sure. I mean, we certainly didn't have the best player in this World Cup. And
Yeah, I don't know if I agree.
I think it's pretty clear Samantha Kerr, based on everything we've read, is the best player in the world for Australia. And I think like something I think about this and
He's
not
playing the best is different from being the best player.
Sure. But I'm just thinking like even if you like look at something like there was a string of dominance of American women's tennis players, whether it was Capriati, Lindsay Davenport, and the Williams sisters, and since Serena has dropped from the top of the rankings, it's been a litany of European players at the top of the rankings. And now it's Swiatek, and there was Ash Barty from Australia before. And there hasn't been the Pegula, the Coco Gauff who has broken through and taken over again. And I just think that American women's sports have blazed a lot of trails that other countries are following. And the pool, it's like you've talked about with the NBA, when the pool is just getting bigger and bigger, it's just hard to imagine that we're going to be the only people to find generationally great players in these sports.
Yeah, I was wrong.
Thank you.
Let's talk about football. Well, I know I won't be wrong. I'll be right about everything. So season's coming up. Getting excited. We had a couple of preview conversations with some NFL Nation reporters, but now I want to do a similar thing with you. But we'll just kind of skate over the league. And one of our favorite games and everybody's favorite game is who's under the most pressure. So let's get into some pressure talk. Who do you think is under most pressure this year?
Well, how do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Because I ranked mine. I have five, and I have five and four honorable mentions.
Okay. All right. I want to go through yours. Not too long, though, and I'll just comment on yours and add mine if I disagree. How about that?
Okay, I'm going to go from 5 to 1.
Okay.
We'll do honorable mentions at the end because I want to. My number 5 is Bill Belichick. We had the Tom Curran report saying that he could be on the hot set. Sure. But I think the dude actually wants to break the all-time wins record. He probably wants to break with the Patriots. Yeah. Robert Kraft is an old guy who might get impatient.
Yeah.
And
who's accustomed to winning Super Bowls and there is no Super Bowl in their foreseeable future, realistically, right now.
Not in their foreseeable future. And he chose Bill Belichick over Tom Brady, and then Tom Brady won a Super Bowl, so it's definitely going to get awkward. Bill Belichick committed coaching and general manager malpractice last year with the offensive staff. And I think you could make an argument who has more pressure on them, McCorkle or Bill. But I think it's Bill just because the expectations are so much lower for Mac Jones.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I think it's Mac Jones if we're going to pick somebody from that team. But I'm not buying into the Bill hype. And I guess maybe you get accustomed to winning like Robert Kraft. But man brings you 6 Super Bowls, a few bad seasons in a row. Or they're not even bad seasons is the thing. Like a few mediocre seasons in a row is no reason to throw them out. It's like we have a rough patch. We haven't found a quarterback. Like, I like to think that Robert Kraft is a little bit more reasonable than that. I think you could dissect the decisions that were made in the past couple seasons and be like, all right, maybe Bill Belichick has lost it because, like, the offensive coordinator situation, benching Mac Jones and pulling back, like, all that stuff is stuff you can point to. They still got an awesome defense. And the man has still put together teams that have been competitive, more competitive than their talent suggests. So, yeah, maybe there should be some tweaks to how they run the offense or how they build the roster or who is coaching here or there. Yeah, maybe those are things are fair criticisms. But you think you're going to get a better coach? You're just going to get a different coach that's likely a worse coach than Bill Belichick. Because Bill Belichick hasn't fallen off.
This isn't the logical list of who should be in trouble. This is who has the most pressure on.
I guess that's my point. Is like, if he has another 9-win season or a 7 or 8-win season, I think it's a bit ridiculous to fire him. But whatever. All right, we got to keep it moving. That's
okay. I just want to. The only thing I'll say is I was listening to Kevin Clark, your arch enemy Kevin Clark, talk about Bill Belichick, and he said that there used to be a classic Bill Belichickism, which was he would hire a coordinator and he'd say, if they failed, I let you do it your way. Now it's time for me to do it my way. And he would take over the unit midseason. He did that like multiple times with the offense under different coordinators. He did it multiple times with the defense of people who even ended up becoming head coaches. And people around the team thought it was incredibly bizarre that he didn't take over the offense last season despite everything that was going on, which I think could be indicative of maybe where he's at in his career. All right, number 4.
How dare you bring Kevin Clark onto my program?
I know.
His mom's great, though. I love his mom. She's a Terp.
Great Terp. Number 4, also related to a Terp, Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh,
4 on my list.
Leah, his brother, the better Tagovailoa, just so you know, Maryland's quarterback who almost left us for the right price, but we ponied up. All right, proceed.
Yeah. Okay, so the way I look at this is he's on this team with more speed than anyone. Last year, we sort of saw like the fusion dance mind meld of Tua and Mike McDaniel, where it was really hard to say who's responsible for all of this. Is it Tua's accuracy? Is it the play calling? Is it all the motion? Is it Tyreek? Is it Jalen Waddle? Is it the running backs? I think there's pressure because last year when he got injured, Skylar Thompson came in and basically didn't look like an NFL quarterback. We talked to Marcel and people say he looked good in camp, and they have Mike White, and this team should have expectations of someone who can compete to make a conference championship game or a Super Bowl.
I love this because it's a branch off of the Shanahan tree. And one thing that I think we might have learned definitively, it was always floated around, is that the Shanahan offense needs a game manager and not anybody who's special superstar. So like we or anyone who has like great physical talents. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it is a very paint by number scheme. And I've heard people float around a while ago that maybe they'd be better off. And like, we remember when they were doing the draft conversations and we thought that they wanted Mac Jones and we were like, this is the dumbest thing ever. No, it's not the dumbest thing ever. Sometimes that's what fits that system. You remember when Kyle Shanahan first went out to San Francisco, he really wanted Kirk Cousins. That was like the plan. Just, we're going to get Kirk Cousins. We're going to be great. And we all were like, that's ridiculous. And then
he call him his dream man?
Yeah, I think
he did it. Which is a great line.
And then they had success with Jimmy G, and they had success with Nick Mullins. They've had success with a bunch of quarterbacks that are not special, frankly. And Tua, I think, fits in that category. He's a first-round pick. He has some special traits, but he's not a transcendent type of super quarterback like we see in some of these other places. So I wonder, like, the whole pressure thing is interesting because they might be the first team to try to run a NFL team like a franchise team. You know how you like stream quarterbacks and not franchise teams, a fantasy team and fantasy football, where they can construct something with the proper weapons and move on and don't overpay. So I think the Tua pressure thing is huge because they did manage to be competitive in that playoff game with Skylar Thompson. And we have seen the Shanahan system prop up a lot of quarterbacks. So if Tua, there's no reason, I don't think, for them to lean in and try to really figure out how to make things work for Tua if he can't stay healthy this year.
The other thing, and part of me just like with the Tua stuff is his like superpower, the skill that we believe he does really well is process information and get the ball out of his hands quickly. And then he had, I don't know, a half handful of concussions, whether it was 1, 2, or 3, depends on who you ask. And then he stopped processing well and he played worse and the offense fell apart. So I think it'll be really interesting to see that, one, is he immediately back to that? 2, can he stay healthy? And 3, is a second-year Skylar Thompson or Mike White, if they have to play this year, is the offense going to fall apart with them in the game? Because last year, it actually made me think more of Tua's value and ability, that the team was not functional on offense when he was injured.
Well, I mean, they were not functional, but they were not bad. I mean, they were competitive, and their defense was really good, too, at certain points.
Yeah.
They're competitive in the playoff game. But, yeah, I mean, Tua should be valued. I think I should be careful of making it seem like I think Tua's not good. He's definitely good, and he's the best version of his offense we saw with him at the helm. But no one believes that it's him only. You know, like, no one's looking at this, and it's because Tua was – it kind of looks like the Jared Goff situation where a coach came in, McVay came in, and then all of a sudden Jared Goff was like the best quarterback in football. And I wouldn't go that far with Tua, but he was playing like the best quarterback in football.
He was in MVP conversations. Right. We talked about it.
He wasn't that bad before. He didn't have the same – I mean, he wasn't as bad as Jared Goff was. But, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it works out for Tua, but I think he's under a lot of pressure. And then there's also, like, his health, which we don't even talk about because, like, getting hit in the head that many times and having those ugly concussions is something we don't know how it's going to impact him. So that's concerning. So I hope he's all right. But he's got a tattoo now, so he's cool.
Yeah. I mean, we were worried he was going to need a hip replacement in college.
Oh,
he has been through a lot.
I'd forgotten all about that. That's why he was still available for them, right? Because he was supposed to be the number 1 overall, and they got him at 5, right?
He got him at 5 and, you know, picked before Herbert, which will now always be the discussion as Herbert now has Kellen Moore and is launching the ball downfield. He made my honorable mention list, by the way, but we'll get there.
Herbert? Okay.
Yeah. Well, for a different reason, but it's more about us as the media. All right. Number 3, I have Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
He fucking sucked last year.
That team is super talented. Like, they're still really
talented.
good. And
they were way better with Jacoby Brissett last year than him.
And they're really good. The only reason why they were not a real contender is like quarterback play. Like, great offensive line, great running backs. Defense is loaded. Well, I guess that's not the only reason, but the defense is loaded. They could all, like, they are legitimate. We thought you add Deshaun Watson, you become a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And so if last year can be chalked up to rust or something else or figuring out how to get them to play better together, then no one's talking about them as a real threat to win the division or let alone come out of the AFC. But, I mean, there is really no reason why they can't.
Yeah. I mean, that defense has a ton of talented players. Maybe some of the most talented. Myles Garrett, I think you could make the case, is right there in the Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa tier. Absolutely. You could make a case that Denzel Ward is like knocking on the door of like, could he sneak into being a top 5 quarterback? And the offense has great players too. I think one of the things about Deshaun Watson too, one, last year he had such a long layoff that we didn't know how to evaluate his performance, and he came in midseason. We've seen players come in midseason and not succeed before. And 2, it was incredibly awkward to talk about his on-field performance. There were so many caveats, and so we just almost didn't talk about it enough for the fact that he was legitimately bad.
Yeah.
And this is someone who ironically played on very not talented teams and performed way above expectations when he was with the Texans. And so we'll see.
Yeah. Bradley Chubb might be the best running back in football.
Nick Chubb.
Oh, Bradley Chubb's the pass rusher. Nick Chubb might
be. Okay, we're on the Dolphins last topic.
Yeah. And I mean, Amari Cooper and Njoku are all good players. What's the rule? I mean, this is probably a conversation for not in the show, but what's the rule for talking about Deshaun Watson as we go forward? Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, I felt like last year was appropriate to bring up the allegations every time we talked about him, and I think we did. I did when I was on TV. Anytime it came up, like, I felt like it was a thing to do. But we don't. I don't know. There is no standard rule because there are other players, and not just players, there are other public figures that are allowed to re-enter society. And like I can speak for myself. I don't feel an obligation to bring up, like Tyreek Hill. I don't feel as much trouble as he's been in domestic violence. Like, I don't bring it up anymore. So I guess there's something you can't answer, but it's just a question that's been floating around my mind because I still have that reflex when I hear Deshaun Watson's name that, like, I feel compelled. I'm supposed to bring this up. I'm supposed to remind people of this. But I don't do that for other people, and I don't know what the rule is. I just want to do the right thing.
Well, the thing with Deshaun Watson is there are certain parts where it doesn't feel like it was handled, like, justly enough. Like, he got rewarded with this contract that no other quarterback's ever going to get rewarded to, and he ended up on a better team. But what we don't want to do, and I'm not crushing him because he was on the air doing it, is the Chris Collinsworth. There have been things that have happened to him, and some off the field stuff. I mean, I don't know. Like, the stuff with Watson, I think he was pretty brash. I think he blamed the media a lot in his comments to start training camp, and to me, that was like just sort of reprehensible, and it showed a lack of growth and responsibility at all. I mean, it's hard not to actively dislike Deshaun Watson, but it's also hard to not. I mean, I don't know. I want to be able to talk about Deshaun Watson, the football player. It's also incredibly interesting.
Yeah,
it's hard not to.
I asked you a question that can't be answered. There is no rule for this. I think normally the rule is when people like are contrite and like apologize and acknowledge it, we then move on. He's not going to do that, but I don't think all players have done that. And again, it's not just players. I don't think all public figures do that, and eventually we move on. So I don't know. There's no question. I mean, there's no right answer to that. It's just every time it comes up, every time his name comes up, it's partially because of reflex. Last season, it was like Deshaun Watson, sexual misconduct. Now let's talk about football. But I just don't know when we are supposed to stop doing that, or if we're supposed to stop doing that, or what we're supposed to do. I guess it's just all about feel.
Yeah. Wrong word.
Yeah. Terrible choice of words right there. I'm sorry. But anyway, moving on. Number 2.
Number 2. My number 2 player is Saquon Barkley. I have this because he betrayed the running back group chat and signed that deal for only the $900,000 of incentives. And it might not be fair, but if he doesn't live up to the contract and earn a deal of at least $14 million, we're going to see a lot more Damian Harris contracts of guys signing 1 year, $2 million contracts.
To be fair, to him, the pressure only matters if there is a chance of success. He could run for 2,000 yards, and no one is going to start paying running backs. There's no pressure. No. Yeah, so like there's no pressure. There's nothing he can do to fix this broken.
Pressure's created by us. We in the media, the narratives. Created.
I guess, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. But I heard it was Bill Simmons, I think, that was talking about, and he speaks for a lot of people, and just kind of, he's not the only one, but the most prominent one, who said like essentially the running backs pity party, and like they should kind of stop complaining type of thing. And I don't think that anyone...
Pick yourself up by your bootstraps, running backs.
Yeah, I don't think that any of us are, like, pitying them as much as we're acknowledging that the system is flawed. And it's not that they deserve... It's not that we don't acknowledge that their value is lower than it is. It's that other people won't acknowledge that the system exists in a way that inhibits the amount of value that they're able to create and when they are valuable. Because they are more valuable early in their career, but there's a artificial limit placed on their salaries. And I don't know, it's just a bad situation for them to be in, and it sucks to hear. And it's not just him, but anybody come on, anyone with any power and reach and like influence the conversation by saying, do something different. Like play a different position. Like stop feeling sorry for yourself when it's like, it's kind of like what you're supposed to do when you're in an unfair situation, is point out that the situation is unfair. And I guess that's where I disagree with some people, is some people would say that the situation isn't unfair. But to me, it appears incredibly unfair to spend up running backs before they hit free agency and then get rid of them, because that's essentially what it is. Unless you're like a top pick, you're auditioning for your next contract. That's what we're all kind of doing. And they're doing it, but then they get to the end, and it's like, hey, no contract for you. And it just kind of sucks. And it's okay to acknowledge, I had this conversation with Mina not too long ago. It's okay to acknowledge that, yeah, logically it doesn't make sense to pay them to a second deal, but acknowledge that it's effed up that they're in a situation. And that's all. Anyway, what's next?
Look, I mean, for me, I just feel bad for those poor GMs. I mean, look, they're trying to win football, and they have a whole running back group chat just lambasting those poor GMs. All right, last one. I think this was obvious. The most pressure of anyone in the NFL is Aaron Rodgers. And that's because our ayahuasca drinking, immunized little buddy is playing on the Jets. And he has an incredibly hyped up defense, an incredibly hyped up receiver in Garrett Wilson, a running back in Breece Hall, who's coming back from injury, who was excellent before then, and a mediocre offensive line.
Yeah.
And he was sort of bad last year. And he came off 2 MVPs, and I think all of us, myself included, are expecting him to be MVP Rodgers again. But this is someone who has won one Super Bowl and is one of the best quarterbacks of all time and is in the twilight of his career when he's older and normally we'd expect him to start declining. And we don't. I'm holding him to the standards of wanting to play like Mahomes and Herbert and Allen and Burrow.
I mean, he's obviously, that's the right answer for number one. I mean, I think I would have said their offensive line, but that's not as much fun.
Mm-hmm.
But the offensive line is under a bunch of pressure to protect him. But no matter the reason, if they fail because offensive line sucks, it's going to fall on Aaron Rodgers. If they fail because their schedule is one of the hardest in football, it's going to be blamed on Aaron Rodgers. No matter what, I think he's one of those people that's moved into this area where he's kind of a lightning rod and people are going to pile on him given the opportunity. And if he succeeds, every show is going to be talking about him, celebrating him. He's going to have the easiest path to an MVP ever. There's not going to be, he could have poorer stats by a lot than someone else. But if he goes to New York and has success, he'll be celebrated up there with any quarterback that we've ever seen for this season. However, if it goes the other way, people are going to come down on him pretty hard.
I was wondering that. Is winning a Super Bowl with the Jets like winning a title for the Knicks? Like if someone won an NBA championship for the Knicks, like if LeBron had ever
I got one name for you, Joe Namath. He's in the Hall of Fame. No one believes that he is amongst the greatest quarterbacks ever, but he won a Super Bowl with the Jets. So yeah, I think it feels like it's in that pantheon where if you can pull it together for the Jets, you go down in history as something special.
This is going to be this could be his great, like LeBron going back to Cleveland in 2016, even though he has no actual connection to New York, but just Jets fans, this is for you if they win the title. Do you want to hear my honorable mentions? I can run through them really quick.
Yeah, run through them.
Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
They're the NFC North favorites.
Yep.
Justin Herbert, just because he's got Kellen Moore now and he's actually going to be allowed to throw the ball deep and he's got the biggest contract, on paper contract in NFL history for quarterbacks.
No room for the Bills? Like, I feel like...
I have Josh Allen on there too.
Okay. Well, I don't think it's just Josh Allen because he's not under that much pressure. But I think, I guess this is their best opportunity before they have to obviously go into a rebuild to win a championship. And he may never have a better chance to win a Super Bowl.
Well, don't you think also that there could be like a little bit of, I got you from the dorks talking about Josh Allen being like, that you're going to suck before the draft. And you don't do it, I can start turning on you.
That's over. He won that argument.
I agree.
Yeah,
but I know there's stubborn people who want him to fail because of the initial take.
The fact of the matter is I assume the dorks are smart enough to realize that if they don't have success, it's not going to be because of him, because he's awesome. Mm-hmm. I was one of those dorks who was like, yeah, Josh Allen's not going to be good. And then we were right for a couple of years. Now we're wrong. And it doesn't matter what happens going forward unless he starts just being terrible. Yeah, Josh Allen won that debate, guys. We lost dorks.
I do think there's going to become a point when we want him to start winning a Super Bowl because he's on like a Hall of Fame trajectory.
That's
and
fine.
It's going to be...
He can still yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say it's going to be weird if they rebuild and the team takes a step back for a few years and he starts approaching 30 and hasn't gotten deeper than that run just because he's seemingly that great. Like he's sort of a generation-defining player, even if he's a tier below Mahomes.
That's why I'm willing to accept that your pressure on him is high because building a championship caliber roster is not easy. They have one and they have had one, and they will not have one next year. Maybe they'll still have the remaining pieces of it, but their window is closing. And being able to construct a roster again that can get him into position to win a championship again may not happen. So yeah, pressure's high. If they don't get it this year, maybe next year, and then they're trying to rebuild again with limited resources. All right.
Last one I have is the Ravens. I think the whole team is in a really interesting position. I think John Harbaugh's been there for – John Harbaugh's been there for – I get my Jim and John confused. They brought in weapons. Lamar just got his contract, and I just think that it's going to be really interesting to see how this team looks because we expect them to be good every single year. And there's a chance – like they could either make the Super Bowl or they could finish third in their division, and I would be fourth, and I'd be shocked either way. I wouldn't be shocked either way.
Yeah, that's fair. A lot of pressure there, but I don't know. I think they'll be all right.
They're 9. They're 9 out of 30
like it.
teams. So.
All right. Well, appreciate you, Charlie. Good times, good talk. And now for the return of everybody's favorite segment, my favorite segment with my favorite person, Roses and Thorns.
He's so good!
How has Domonique been lately?
Bad or good?
Let's find out. This is Roses and Thorns.
All right. My favorite Foxworth and your favorite segment, Roses and Thorns. What's up, Ashley? Welcome.
Hi, honey. I missed you.
In a long time. I mean, you can't miss me. I just left like 10 hours ago.
Well,
I missed doing the segment.
I'll start with my thorn for you. My thorn is that this morning, and by morning I do mean afternoon East Coast time, but I mean 6:40 in the morning Hawaii time, which so we left Hawaii at 10:55 p.m. Saturday. It's Monday right now. We left Hawaii at 10:55 p.m. Saturday and, we stopped in LA, but 2 5-hour flights basically to get home. And we got to DC with the time difference. It was 4 p.m. Sunday. Domonique is a trooper because he came home and packed his bag and then had an 8-something flight to Miami that night, which is where he is now. So that's why I miss him, because I'm at home in DC. We're back to being at home, but I'm in a different room, which I'll touch on in a second. And so then he's in Miami for working down there right now. And so he did that. He did all that. What time did you get up to do the show this morning? 8, 7? 6:30?
Yeah, 7:30. First meeting was at 8.
He did all that. I came home and changed and went to Beyonce last night in DC in the rain. She was singing and dancing all in the rain, like she says in her song. She's a hero for that. So she and Domonique are heroes. And then this morning, I got back at 2. My kids were still up because they're on Hawaii time. The poor babysitter was probably Janiyah was this is not what I was expecting from it. She didn't know that we just landed from Hawaii when she came over. And so, or that the house was a construction zone. So she was probably what the hell? I'm sorry, Janiyah. And the kids were still up till 3:30 or so. So then he called me at 12:40 to be are you 12:40 East Coast time? But I'm still kind of on Hawaii time to be are you doing Roses or Thorns say, will you be ready at, the time we record it? And I was yeah, I'll be ready. He's are you still asleep? And you said that with so much judgment. So that is my thorn, that just because you kicked your jet lag magically and were up to work at 7:30 this morning and I was asleep at 12:40. In my defense, I had been up earlier because people were at the house doing work. So I got up and talked to them and did some stuff. Okay, I didn't do anything other than to put on the bathroom and talk to them. But I did that and put my phone on silent mode because it had been buzzing. It was annoying me. But I just felt some judgment. So that's my one and only thorn. But it's also a rose in there for you that you killed it.
It wasn't judgment. You misread my tone. It was, you haven't kicked the jet lag. Because I assumed that what you were going to do was kick the jet lag. Just get up.
Just
and
wake
get
up.
with it. So it was I talked to you at noon and you sounded like I called you at 4 a.m. and I was So it was more less judging you. I don't care. It's you don't have nothing to do. Get your rest. But you're gonna have to deal with this at some point. And I thought today was the best day to deal with.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're right. And the kids actually had camp today, but I sent emails last night being they're not going to be here because otherwise they would have called me at 8:30 or 9 once they realized they weren't there. But excuse me, do you know your child is absent today? If I didn't email to say they'd be absent, and I did not want to have to answer the phone when they called me at 9 because that would have been 3 a.m. And so they're not at camp even though we paid for it. But they're going to go tomorrow. Also, we didn't have any lunch. We have to send them with lunch. We have no food. So while we were away, we've lived in the same house for 9 years, guys. The power's never gone out. While we were away, there was a bad storm in DC. Our power went out for the first time. Both of our cars got not ruined, but they're at the body shop right now because they were parked on the street all times for the movie city. They were in a spot where I never, ever parked them. But we were getting work done on our house while we were gone. So I wanted the driveway to be clear for the people doing work. Literally, we have never parked right there. And the one time we do. Anyway. Yay,
so our house is going to be like this until December.
November. Okay, that's another stuff. That's a rose for you. Gracious. That you don't even want this housework done. And you are such a trooper, one, about the fact that we're doing it and it's not cheap.
This is a preemptive rose. This is a preemptive rose because I just started living in this war zone and I've yet to complain about it, but I've
Yes.
been there for a couple hours. So you're preemptively rosing me to make
Which is
sure that I
smart,
don't
right?
complain.
Which is smart. So we walked in. Luckily, they had emailed me a picture because like we're getting our kitchen redone and then like getting some other rooms on that side of the house touched on and getting a powder room put in. So it's a lot of work, but it's all like just one side of the first floor. I didn't realize that for dust protection, they would have to like cover up the whole first floor basically. So like to get from any room, so like when you walk in our house, whether you walk into the garage, you walk in the front door, they're just plastic tarps and zippers and and it sucks because I typically come home having to pee really bad. Like that's already happened like twice where like I had to either get up from the basement. I don't know why I didn't just pee down there, but like I've been like rushing to pee and I'm like, oh, I gotta fiddle with these zippers. Like it's like when you have to pee really bad, and you have to unbutton your pants and you may or may not make it. It's like that times two because I have to
I always
unzip
make
the zipper and then I also have to go like get out of my clothes. It's gonna be rough. I might have some accidents during this period.
good luck.
But a
Yeah,
rose for
so the
you
whole
is
middle
that you're
floor is
handling
dead,
it
huh?
like a trooper.
I mean, there's no other way to handle it. Is you either get through it or you don't. And I don't plan on not getting through it. But yeah, this is gonna be tough for all of the holidays. But whatever. I mean, the price is more what's stressful than the inconvenience. Like deal with inconvenience.
I
But
know, but it's like, from your perspective, it's like
oh yeah, I don't want
one,
none
the
of this shit.
price,
But I mean,
huh?
yeah, I don't want none of this. But it's,
Yeah,
uh,
and so it's a rose, and you're handling it great. So thank you for that.
I haven't
Another
yet
rose is that you
planned on handling it poorly. I just decided to change my mind.
you're gonna be.
I'm gonna be a grump this whole time,
You said
start
be
to
drunk
finish.
or be a grump.
Maybe both. I said a grump, but apparently both. Be drunk, high, and grumpy to survive this major injury. No, it's not that bad. It's not gonna be a big deal. I don't care about it, but we'll be all right, whatever.
I was shocked
I
though.
work
Like I don't
hard.
know, were you? And I feel bad because I'm the one that wanted it. So it's like I'm like, oh, this is great. It's so
I
awesome.
appreciate that you keep using the W word because it's definitely a want and not a need, and I
I
think
know
that
that.
is the most stressful part. Is like, oh, well, we didn't have to do all this, but we're doing it.
Yeah. I'm not delusional. I know it's a want, not a need. So thank you for that. That's a rose. Another rose is that you I had COVID, y'all. So it's been 3 weeks since we've done this actually. Because last week we were on vacation and the week before that I had COVID and I just would like to remind us all that it's still there. But I mean, so is the flu, right? And it's always gonna be here, I guess, is what we need to
Yeah.
accept. But it just sucks because like at least for me, I'm such a rule follower. And I think mostly so now I'm not the CDC, like take this with a grain of salt. But what I think that the guidelines have changed and it's like, okay, once you have COVID, like stay in for 5 days, which if you have a cold, if you have the flu, no one tells you have to stay in for even 5 days, right? But like with COVID, it's like, mask up, isolate for 5 days. And then after that, you can go back out, I think, with the mask on for another 5 days, is what someone told me, right? Is what the new guidance is. And then another person was like, just go back outside once you feel better. And this was like a doctor friend who told me that. But I had it, my kids, one morning, the little two kids woke up and they were both separately sick. And I was like, oh no, like I hadn't thought about COVID in a while. I was like, just in case, I'm gonna go ahead and test you. We got all these extra tests later now. And so I found two that weren't expired and tested them. They both had COVID. So then I tested everyone else and I was negative. My daughter was negative. Domonique was negative. But like by that night, maybe I was like, oh shucks, I don't feel great. And so I ended up getting it. And so it was in just enough time. So we had this trip booked, non-refundable.
Oh yeah, I can say this now. We were leaving you, so I don't care what that was going to be the biggest
He
thorn
said that.
of
So
your life.
the trip was
We were leaving you.
non-refundable, and the little two had
The
COVID
trip
before I
to
did. So I'm
Hawaii,
there.
which you guys can imagine how expensive that is. She thought that we were going to stay here just
No,
because
but
she
here's
couldn't
the
make.
thing. It was non-refundable, but it was changeable. Because I was booking it around the house stuff, I had booked the rate where we could change the dates for free, which I had already done once. We'd already pushed it back once because the demo on the house got pushed back. Or it just never was solidly set. They said like vaguely when it was. And so I booked it for them, but then it got solidly set the week later. So I'd already moved it once. So I was just like, okay, I need to get on my phone. I need to call the hotels because we went to Arizona and Hawaii. I need to call the hotels. I need to call the airlines, like just change everything. But he was like, what if we just left you? And I was like, You're
No, that
joking,
was
right? You would
I
never
didn't.
leave me. Why
Yeah,
couldn't we
I
have
didn't
just moved it
understand.
back?
Oh yeah, we could have moved it back. I didn't understand. I thought your
No, I
expectation
wasn't just
because
gonna
I
take the
knew how.
loss. I was gonna make
So what were
them
you gonna do?
because I
I know
think I
you
was
weren't.
like already in the period where
So
the hotels.
let's say it was not refundable, and you still were testing positive. What were you gonna do? Me and
I
all
would
the
have
kids were
actually been
negative.
though okay by the new CDC guidelines to fly. I would have worn a mask. But I
Okay.
really wanted to follow the old guidelines, like more selfishly for my family than for the world. Like, I mean, for everyone. But I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna be around people till I'm negative. And so it was like, we gotta leave in 2 days or 3 days, 2 days. Finally, it was 2 days before we left where I turned negative. But so in that time, at first for like the first maybe like 5 days, I was feeling miserable. Like
Yeah, you
passed out
were
all day, hardly
dead
able
to
to
the world.
breathe. That was the only thing that kept me from sleeping was my head hurt so bad either that I couldn't go to sleep, and then also my nose would be so stuffed that I couldn't get to sleep comfortably. Um, but once
Me
I
and
was
Avery
feeling,
though, we didn't
huh?
catch it. I
But
said
and
Avery
yes,
and I
and
didn't catch it
Dominique and
in
Avery, our
the
oldest, never caught it. So this just
and
solidified
the younger
everything he's
two.
thought about me. That like I'm a weakling and he's all strong, but I also like am up under the kids. I'm not. That's not even true.
Yeah, you
That's
know,
why I can't even lie. The little one just wants to be in his face all day.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But they weren't even sick really. Like they were.
I know.
It was
Like, they
like
were
they were
sniffly the
like
day I
down
tested
for like
him,
they were down for like 6 hours, and then they were back to normal, and that was a
and then I
whole
was
thing.
dead.
Yeah, and then you
Not
were gone
literally,
for
thank
a
God.
few days.
Yeah, it was really bad. So that's a rose. Did I say that? That's a rose that you held it down, single parenting. Or I think that's how I started this story. That you held it down, single parenting the healthy children and still parenting the sick children because it's amazing he didn't get it. Like the little two would look at me crazy when I'd be like, put on a mask, guys. Like when they'd be running around the house. And to be fair, 60% of the household did have COVID. So really like the two healthy ones could have been the ones having to stay like in a box, in a room somewhere, and we could have just had free reign. But
Yeah, we'd have been happy to go to a hotel. I would have been fine with me and Avery. I'd have
no,
good
I
luck
needed
to you
help.
guys.
I could not. You could not go to a
House to
hotel.
burn down.
Um, but they just were running around maskless, like nonstop.
At a
Um,
certain point, I wasn't concerned. I was like,
I know you were
we're
like, I'm not getting it. I was like, no,
like,
because I
clearly, I'm
was
not
right
gonna
then. It
get
was
it.
like, I'm gonna clear this before we have to leave. What I don't need is y'all to get it like belatedly, and then y'all to be sick, and then us have to move the trip. So
But we got the trip. Everything was good.
it
So
was
you
great.
have highlights from the trip, or is there something else that I thorned? There's another
No, you
thorn.
don't have any other thorns. You're just like full of roses. But that another rose is yes, that like you went along with this trip and you made like my dreams of recreating pictures that we taken when we were there as a couple. Um like recreating like in
Yeah,
Lahaina, the tree and stuff, and you wore all the outfits that I packed for you. I was drunk on Etsy one day, guys, so I ordered him 2 vintage Hawaii shirts and he wore them. And basically like pretty much every day, like I like to say look good as a unit. Like you could say coordinated if you want, but you can't say it's matched because
yeah, that's an
other than a
insult.
couple times like where the girls have like the same print on bathing suits, I don't do matching. I do coordinating or looking good as a unit. You accept it looking good as a unit. You didn't mix up your outfits to not look good as a unit with us. So thank you for that.
I mean, most of the
I
time it's not intentional. Like when I do mix up the outfits, it's not like, man, I'm gonna mess up Ashley's coordinating unit. It's just that I grabbed some clothes, I put them on. But this time you packed all of our clothes in individual bags. So every day you would
I
open a bag
this
and
was a
pull
new
out
packing
everyone's clothes.
technique
It was
for
like, all
me,
right, that's fine.
and I recommend it. Even if you don't care about coordinating your outfits, like it was just I used those 2-gallon Ziploc baggies, and I put like I didn't know what day we wear different things, but I was like, here's 5 people's clothes for this day with like each person's underwear, or at least for the kids. I ended up putting our stuff in separate drawers. But like, so literally every day I could just take out a baggie instead of them like waking me up, or I was up before them every day. But like, Mom, where are my clothes? Or them ripping through drawers and like unfolding everything or ripping through suitcases. So I highly recommend that if you don't already do it.
That was
Um,
a impressive compliment or accomplishment too. Is you packed for how many days away were we?
8 days.
We were away for 8 days. You packed for 5 people for 8 days, and we did not use any baggage check. All
No, I
carry
hate
on.
checking bags. We had to check bags when we went skiing because like winter clothes are so big. But I feel like in summer, no matter how many days you're away, I mean, obviously you're away for like 3 weeks. But if you're away for 3 weeks with a washing machine, though. But yes, we had no. I thought about getting laundry done at the hotel. We stayed at the Four Seasons in Maui, and it was beautiful. But like a very overpriced hotel. So I called. Thank God I called. I was in like a group text with some friends, and I was like, "Have any of you ever done like laundry done in a hotel? How like I know they always have that bag, and you can fill something out, and they can do your washing." And I was like, "Have you ever done it? I wonder how much it costs." And they're like, "We don't know, but it's Hawaii, so whatever you think, double it." And I was like, "Okay." So I was like, maybe it'll be like $100 a load. Like honestly, like if that's what's gonna save me from not having to pack a carry-on, if like on day 5 I can get like all of our underwear and like some cover-ups and because I'm also like anal, don't like to rewear things when they feel a little bit dirty. Like in pajamas, get all that washed and like have that fresh for the second half of the trip. That'll be worth $100. And one of them was like, you should call the concierge and ask. Call and ask. And I was like, okay. So I did. Oh my God. It was like literally like they were like, well, we don't do it by the load, we do it by the piece. And I was like, well, that's dumb, but okay. Like, give me an idea. $5 for a pair of underwear and socks. Like, not underwear, it's like $5 for underwear, $5 for socks, $9 for a t-shirt. So I'm like, my little daughter's like camisoles that they sleep in, like the little girls like undershirts, you know? I'm like, that would be $9 to wash. I was like, nah, we're just gonna pack it all. Like, we'll pack for 8
It
full
costs
days.
$9 to buy
Huh?
them. I said it didn't cost $9 to buy them.
No, like that's crazy, right? Unfortunately, you can't get stuff quickly there. I could have you're right. I guess they have a Target, but I should have just bought all new underwear and stuff there. I didn't even think about that. But it was great. Thank you. Yes, I was really proud of my packing. I did it while I had COVID. Like those last days, once I felt a little bit better, I was like, oh, I got time on my hands. I can't really do anything. Let me pull all the clothes in my bedroom and pack them. So it was great. Those were all my. I mean, there's so many more roses for you, but those were a lot of them. I'm happy that we're back doing this. Yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to keep doing it in football season though, because I think you'll be so busy talking about football. But I guess we did it last.
We'll
football
find a way.
season.
Maybe we'll do it on a different day. But I mean,
Yeah.
this is something that we do that I think is consistently good and fun, and I think we'll find a way to do it. I don't know what my schedule's going to be like, but I know it's going to be intense because
While also
got
coaching.
pays for this house.
What'd you say?
Huh? Nothing.
You said what?
But I love you. I said I love you.
I love you too. Also, guys who aren't looking, we look good as a unit today by accident. I'm wearing a gray Beyonce shirt and he's wearing gray tie-dye, so yay. Oh, that's something else I want to say. Beyonce in the rain last night was great, but FedEx Field, do better. It was disgusting.
People already know that about FedEx Field.
Magic Johnson will make it better.
Any highlight of the trip that you wanted to
Oh, yeah. I
out?
think actually, even though I'm not very adventurous, we went like on this like ride called like the Road to Hana. We had a driver take us who's from there and like knew places to stop. We actually only went halfway because I can't be out for 8 hours, but we stopped at a lot of places where like in like natural pools and like jumped off rocks
Cliff dive.
into water. And I was really bad at it and didn't actually necessarily enjoy it like I did it at each place. Like the one, there was like a rope to swing in, and I did that one twice. And Domonique was like, are your arms just going out? And I was like,
Was there any highlight of the trip that you wanted to
oh, yeah. I
out?
think actually, even though I'm not very adventurous, we went like on this like ride called like the Road to Hana. We had a driver take us who's from there and like knew places to stop. We actually only went halfway because I can't be out for 8 hours, but we stopped at a lot of places where like in like natural pools and like jumped off rocks
Cliff dive.
into water. And I was really bad at it and didn't actually necessarily enjoy it like I did it at each place. Like the one, there was like a rope to swing in, and I did that one twice. And Domonique was like, are your arms just going out? And I was like, no, I just
Yeah, it was pretty
am
bad.
scared. So I just drop as soon as I think I'm over water. Whereas like looking back at the videos, even my kids, like they would swing so far out and then they would come off. Like
You
me, I
made it
was
more
like, "Oh."
dangerous.
It was pretty bad. But that
But you
was
did it.
really fun. What about you?
Yeah, that was fun too. I loved it. That was good. Yeah, I don't know. It was all really good. Everything was
Yeah,
fun.
it
I
was
think
like,
it's
I
just
think one of
the
our
whole
best family trips.
the whole family trip thing. I appreciate that you've adopted that it's not a vacation because it doesn't feel like a vacation to me at least. But it's like, I don't know, when you're doing these type of things, when we went to Vegas, like I had fun in Vegas. Like we had a good time. It was
Yeah.
relaxed, stress free.
The kids weren't there, guys.
Yeah, it was a good thing. Whereas this one is less about having fun as much as it's like creating good moments and good experiences, which isn't easy. So like I found myself being tired a lot and like more stressed than you want to be on vacation, and not necessarily enjoying like literally like this is so much fun, but just like enjoying us being together and doing things together. And we had long stretches where nobody was fighting, which was nice.
I know.
a
That was
lot of
another row. Seeing the
scoring.
kids get along so well. And like that for 7 days, they were forced to all three of them share a room. Well, I guess at the first hotel, they were in 2 separate rooms. But like, that was nice.
Yeah. And I don't know. So like as much as I get tired of some of those things, so like Declan will explore the ocean and the rocks and whatever for hours on end, and doing that for a long time with him. I think that's what I liked, was when I could do individual things with each of the kids. And
Yeah.
like I went on a long walk with Emerson where we looked for things to take pictures of around the hotel and around the island, and went like on a nature thing with Declan where we found urchins and armored urchins and birds and crabs and lizards and all that stuff was fun. And when Avery and I went to the mall a couple times and went to
I sat at
bookstore.
the pool
That's all
/
pretty
beach
cool.
supervising them with cocktails. Does that count as
Yep.
alone?
Yeah,
No.
way to supervise.
I kill parenting, guys. He's
Nah,
always
you
been more
went
like,
out in the water. You went out in the water with Declan much.
No, I did. I was in the ocean with them a lot. But it's funny to see it evolve. Like I remember one time when Avery was a baby, we were at our house in Baltimore, and my sister was there, and I was like, oh, I'm the like I'll care for you parent. Like I'll go feed her, make her bottle, like read her a book at bedtime, but I'm not fun. Like I'm not about to like sit here and play for that long with her. Like whereas Domonique has like always been the fun parent. But he's also a care for you parent. But like to see it evolve into them getting old as the kids of age, where I'm like, okay, like you do the fun things and you do the alone activities. I'm like, I will take you out to dinner because eating is like a functional thing that we both need and want to do. But like really just the two of us go for a walk. So I thank you I need to be better with stuff like that. You're inspiring me to be better.
Whatever. Just don't need it better. Just keep them alive and keep them educated and
I'm trying.
fight for them when they're not there, and all the things that you do that don't show up on the stat sheet.
It's fun. It's just funny though, like you know what I mean, like to see how it's tracked through there, like where you're like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna throw you up
I'm
in
a
your
much
air
better
parent.
parent
Now
than
I'm
you.
the
I
four
agree.
tie pools with you parent. What'd you say?
Nothing. I love doing at different locations. I can slide in remarks that you never catch. Anyway, I love you. This has been good. Thank you for doing the show with me. Thank you, Christina Buswell. Thank you, Adi Khan. Thank you, Sarah Abbott. And we're not at the DC studio. We are in, yeah, I know. We are in Miami. So thanks to Metalark for letting me use this studio. All right.
And Potville for helping us too, though. Helping me. They had to help me remember how to set this thing up because I did not know.
Them too. Everybody. Thanks to everyone except me. No one ever thanks me.
Oh, thank you, honey, for giving me this opportunity to
joking.
talk to you and have
Yeah.
it be
Lots
recorded
of people thank
for
me all the time.
posterity. Our great
Bye.
grandkids can listen to this one day.
Barriers. Yeah.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.